Hello and welcome to Northwest Knitting. My name is Kathy and welcome to my knitting podcast. This is where I talk about my journey to have a more sustainable wardrobe and all the other things I might get into. I'm endlessly fascinated by yarn and wool and alpaca and all the other fibery things that we do our crafts with. So this, I believe, is episode 11. Thank you so much for coming to see me. I really appreciate it. I especially appreciate your very, very kind comments. And thank you so much for subscribing. I hope I can share something interesting with you today. So I have been knitting, but I feel like there's been a little bit of a lull because things have been busy for me. As you can see, I'm not wearing a knitted object because it is so darn warm here. It's going to be in the 90s again today. So we can feel that summer is ending because the nights are coming so quickly and then things cool down, but it's still pretty warm. I just couldn't put anything else on, so. I went to for my birthday, we went to the Oregon coast with my family, so my kids and their families, and it's just the best gift I could have is spending time with all of them in one place. It just makes me feel so good. So that was wonderful, and of course we love the coast. So I have been very, very excited. Oh my gosh, what did I do with that book? Oh, here it is. I've been very excited because there's a new book out, and it's called Salt and Timber, Knits from the Northern Coast by Lindsey Fowler. And apparently Lindsey lives in Ohio, but she's from Oregon originally, or her family lives here. And so there's just gorgeous pictures in here. I'll talk to you about it a little bit more in a few minutes, but it really made me think about our coast and how much I appreciate it. It is unusual in the United States because Oregonians or anybody who comes to visit has full access to the dry sands, which are from the water to about 16 feet above the water. It might be above low tide, I'm not sure. But there was a bill that passed in 1967 because there was starting to be some development on the coast, and some hotels were putting up signs that the public wasn't able to have access to the beach. And there are a couple reasons this didn't pass. There were some extraordinary people. Our wonderful Governor Tom McCall was involved, and also there are wonderful citizens who felt very strongly that this should be, it was a beautiful resource that should be available to everyone. So in 1967, a law was passed giving access to the public. And I think it helped that Tom McCall had a background in broadcast journalism, and there were also, and he kind of knew how to rally the people. And also, I think Oregonians didn't know that they thought that they did have access, so they thought they already did have a right to it. And when it was raised that they might not be able to, I think the public demand for it overcame the politicians who were concerned about property rights. So I'm so grateful that that law exists. It makes it so beautiful. I think it's probably, there's plenty of development on the coast, but I think it's protected the beach. And the other thing that's protected the beach is the climate and the geography. When we were there, so it was early August, there was one day where I had my wooliest sweater, a wool hat, and my newest woolly scarf wrapped all over. It's cold on the beach sometimes. This is not a beach. Usually, this is not a beach where you're going to pull out your beach towel and slather yourself with sunscreen. And so consequently, you don't see rows and rows of people doing that. And you can often walk on the beach and find it quite empty, depending on where you go and that kind of thing. The other thing is the geography, the way the coast is built. There's such rocky outcroppings that it's not easy you could never build a road all the way out right along the beach. So, okay, I'm gonna pause this for a minute because my neighbor's mow, blow, and go guy has arrived. Okay, so I have one finished object, this cute little baby sweater by Kelly Herdrich, and it's called In Threes, a Baby Cardigan. And I've made this before many years ago. It's not a new pattern by any means. And this was the first sweater that I made successfully. And I love it because I feel really fondly of it because this is what made me think I could knit this for myself. And that got me going into knitting sweaters, and it just was a great way to go. So if you know somebody who hasn't gotten into sweaters, this is a cute little pattern. What makes it easier is a button band doesn't have to be picked up. It's just part of the whole thing. It's got a cute texture that's just purling, and for the sleeves, you just bind these off and then you keep knitting. So really fun for anybody who wants a quick project, and also for someone who is starting out with something new. Also has a nice little garter stitch panel there. So anyway, there's a little thread hanging, but that's the last bit. And the yarn I used was Candyskein Tasty DK, and that's this in the colorway Gnome Nuts, Gnome Nuts. So yeah, they have a lot of yarn. Wait a minute. This one is 100% merino superwash, and I got into their yarns, well, partly because I went to their wonderful store and they have lots of beautiful colors. This is in Astoria, Washington, where you can go, and there's a place you can go and look out over where the Columbia River runs into the ocean. It's really great. They say that this can be machine wash and tumble dry low, and I was looking for something for babies. So lots of beautiful colors there, and they do vary quite a bit from skein to skein, but you can alternate skeins if that's a big issue for you. So anyway, really happy with this. So a new baby is coming, and that will be one of the little gift items. Okay, so I have a couple things that I've started. Now moving to whips. We're less formal around here. So last time I saw you, I talked about possibly making a Lento sweater. And this is the design by Jonna Hietala. And it was in Lina magazine, I think, number 11. So it's really a beautiful, simple raglan cardigan, and it has a folded collar, and it's cropped. And I, of course, am doing neither of those things. I was going to do the folded collar. I think it looks really nice. But the day I was working on it, I was super hot, and I thought, I can't have all that around my neck. So I'm doing a rib, and the other thing is I'm making it longer because I just feel more comfortable with things longer. So, which has led me to a problem. But let me show it to you first before we talk about difficulties. So here's the yarn. Here's the, you can see, it's really, I've got a much longer body. And I started on the sleeves. And I will say that I just tried this on, and it just, and I had Dennis look at it too, and it just seems like this sleeve feels a little big, but I think that's the intention actually. But I'm not sure I'm going that way because of my problem. So my problem, which maybe I've made up, but I think I haven't weighed the yarn yet, but I will fear that I do not have enough of my mohair. So what I'm using is, I talked about it quite a bit last episode, but it is the Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the Almanac color. And yeah, there it's like that. So I have plenty of that, but I'm also using this mohair, which is Yoriko Ori's Kid Silk, and it's I think it's 72% mohair, 28% silk, and it's called Indigo Constellations. And these two really are stunning. I could not be more excited. I really wanted a, after working on the, with the little needles for my Trelawney top and some of the other things I've done this summer, I wanted bigger needles again, and like I used for the ranunculus. So this pattern calls for size 10 needles. I'm using 9s, just because I like the fabric better. But okay, so I think when I was calculating this, I did not think about the fact that I was probably not going to make it cropped, and I should have looked at the length of the body more carefully. And I do think the sleeves are meant to be wider, so I can change that, but I do like the length of the body, so I don't want to change it. And you can see my rib there, which I'm really happy with. It comes up a little more, a little higher than some of the things I've made recently, and it'll be great for the winter. But so I tried ordering another skein or two of the Indigo Constellations, and for some reason I cannot get my order to go through. It won't even let me get to the payment part. So I'm going to try this afternoon and see if Dennis can do it on his computer. I have no idea what the problem is. We've both looked at it, you know, I have no idea. And I've been in touch with Yoriko, and so maybe she can help me do it without going through, you know, just take my credit card over the phone or something. But anyway, I haven't weighed. I should get my scale out and weigh the mohair, because maybe I will have enough. So I'm thinking I'm going to go back and maybe, but you know, I did look at, can you see that I have been decreasing fairly rapidly as per the pattern. So I don't know. I think it's the design to have bigger sleeves, and I don't mind it, but right now I'm really worried about whether I'll have enough to finish. I guess what I could do if I had to is rip out the bottom and make it a little shorter, but I'm very, very happy with the length. So anyway, I highly recommend this pattern. If you're looking for something with bigger needles, this would be great. And you don't have to do it with mohair, but I think that's what the pattern does, and it just looks so appealing. Can you see? Oh, look at that beautiful variation in there, and it's so good. So what there? Oh, one thing is, what was it? I was going to tell you something about this sweater. Maybe it'll come to me. But anyway, the other thing is, I really like the Brooklyn Tweed Loft, and I'm thinking of using Brooklyn Tweed Shelter for a sweater that's coming up this fall. And I started looking at the reviews, and they're both woolen spun. The Loft is the fingering weight and the Shelter is the worsted weight. And boy, on Ravelry, the comments are all over the map. Some people say, somebody literally said, I've made 13 sweaters out of Shelter, and I love it. I've never had a problem with breakage. It's just great. Other people have said, there's so much breakage. I just, this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. What a mystery. So anyway, I've made this whole sweater. Being me, I have ripped out a number of times. I haven't had any problems with breakage, nor have I with when I've made hats and gloves with Shelter. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Everybody has a different way they knit. Who knows? I will say that the colors for both Loft and Shelter are fabulous. They use the same colors, and apparently you can hold two strands of Loft will equal Shelter. So if you have some Loft and you're like doing color work, you could and you needed some yarn, you could just hold them double and you're good to go. So that's kind of exciting. So we'll see. I got the yarn in Ashland at the Webster's, which is a wonderful yarn store, and I'm planning to be down there again soon. So I might look and see what they have for their Shelter. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So with this project, and also with another one I just started, I've been thinking about the issue of sleeves and knitting tighter in a smaller circumference. So I've been knitting my sleeves with magic loop. So I can't say that it's my favorite thing in the whole world, but for portability, I find the DPNs to be troublesome, and I do feel like I have better control with magic loops. So I still want to try some of the very small circulars, but I haven't done that. But the interesting thing is, I don't know, do any of you remember that a number of years ago, people were talking, maybe even not that long ago, people were talking about using their sleeve, especially if you were doing bottom-up sweaters, to use your sleeve as your swatch. But then more recently, I've been hearing quite consistently, particularly from Andrea Mowry, that almost everybody knits their sleeves or anything in a smaller circumference tighter than they do for the body. So I just recently cast on, where am I here? Okay, Lento's over here. I just cast on a sweater that you might have remembered from a previous episode that I talked about. I got the Shetland Wool Week for 2020. That's this one. And it has that beautiful cowl that I still haven't made. We got to go through our old books, don't we? Once in a while. Let's see. So this is the sweater. It's called the Strom Cardigan. And what I really like about it is that yoke. And my plan was to make it in the, this is a Shetland book. They recommend Jamieson Smith. And I'm using, for the first time in my life, I am using a cone. So this is one of the cones I got this spring. Oh boy, Anyway, I just love it. And I'm using bits of different yarns. I have some elemental effects. That is this. And I have to say, I am not sure of the colors because I'm not settling on these yet. But then for my birthday, in addition to my wonderful time at the coast, I decided that it was unlikely that anybody would be sending me a nice parcel from the Woolly Thistle or any other place, actually. So I decided I would do it myself. I really think, sometimes I'm my own Santa also. You know, not excessively, but sometimes a gal just needs a treat. So I ordered a number of treats for myself for my birthday. One was the Salt and Timber book, and some other yarn I'll show you. But I also got a few skeins of the Jamieson Smith. Now these colors are way out of my usual. But lately I've been, I've knit so many darker colors in the last 6 months or so, and I'm just craving lighter colors. So I don't know if these will be it, but they're so good. I can't even tell the numbers on the Jamieson. Wow. Well, this is FC 37. I've come close to buying a cone of that one. And this one is FC 22. And this looks like, it says 1283. There's really a lot of dimension to these, Really like them. So I'm fiddling around with the colors, and this is what I did so far. So I'm using obviously the blue is the body, and I'm using these light bright colors for the edging. The other thing is I'm not doing the bottom rib and the sleeve and the button band. I am not doing the bright pink down the bottom. So that's where my conservatism will come in, my personal color conservatism. But I feel like the yoke has so much going on that I'll use those light bright colors there, and I think I'll be real happy with it. But anyway, the issue is this is probably not accurate for swatch. So I got to go back and swatch, really. And I can tell I pulled in with the stranded work here. It's a little, I can visibly see that I pulled in for that. So, anyway, I'm real excited about it, but I need to get serious because here's the thing. I have never knit a bottom up sweater for myself. I've knit a bottom up baby sweater for a little guy. I did a Tin Can Knits Dog Star, I think, which you'll never see because it was given long ago to the baby. But it just said my Wi-Fi is disconnected. What does that have to do with anything? I don't know. Anyway, so that was very successful. You just knit from the bottom up, add the sleeves, it all worked fine. But for me, me and my sizing issues, I think, ooh, am I going to be able to do this? So my strategy is going to be that I will start, because my top is so much smaller and I have kind of slopey and narrow shoulders, I'm going to start, and my hips are big, bigger. Then I'm going to start with a much bigger size at the bottom And then I will decrease it, because then as soon as I'm past the hips, everything starts getting narrower, and then I'll decrease it so that by the time I get to separating for sleeves, that I will be more at the size that'll work for my shoulders. So that's my strategy. And we'll see how it goes. But I do need to swatch and be more, very, very mindful, because it's just not going to be one of those that I'm trying on and fiddling with the hip size and that kind of thing. So anyway, that's one plan. And the reason I mention that too is, so let me show you some of the things that from Salt and Timber that I'm thinking about. So there's some really nice pictures. I'm doing this. There's some very nice, there's quite a few hats in here. So, but this, there are two shawls that I want to work on. Actually, I bought it to buy the sweater on the book, and I'll tell you about what's delaying me on that. But anyway, there's two shawls. This is the Set Adrift shawl, and it is knit side to side, which I never do. And then you don't weave in the ends, you make fringe out of them. I've never done that, so I think that'll be a fun little thing, and I have just already cast on. So here's the beginning of my Set Adrift, and I'm using Manos del Uruguay Milo, which is 65% merino, 35% linen, and here we go. Gorgeous color. Oh, I am such a sucker for this. I guess it's the linen that makes it look a little more rustic or something. Oh, but it's not scratchy at all. And then I'm holding it, my other color is the Rowan felted tweed here. And I have to say, I am not positive of the, I don't know the colorway. So at some later point, maybe I can find it. I might have gotten this at Webster's also, and so when I'm down there, maybe I can find it. I've gone online. I think I might have identified it. It might be Fjord, but I'm not sure. So anyway, this is really fun, and I am having a good old time with that. Okay, and then the other one that I'm doing is I am looking at this. Someone's looking at me, but he doesn't know I'm podcasting. So I am doing, I really want to do this one. So this is the Cape Lookout shawl, and I'm not sure I'm going to do it the way she suggests, but what she does is you hold fingering weight yarn alone here, and then here you hold it with a mohair. And then I looked at the pattern. Apparently you get to here, you drop the mohair, you keep going. And it works because it's not intarsia, because you're not dividing things here. You're just you're just dropping one. So that's very interesting. But I'm just, because I'm craving that, some lighter yarns, I got in my Woolly Thistle mailing, I got this. So this is Jagger Spun Heather in the Wisteria colorway. So I don't know, to me it looks a little, in real life it looks a a little, looks like it has a little bit of blue in it, but I'm just loving it, and I think I just am needing some lighter colors in my life. I've been seeing some shawls on Instagram and Ravelry that are just, you know, they're so lacy and soft and lovely. And anyway, this would be great. The colors, what I like about this is the colors for this Jagger spun are, there are some brighter colors, but almost everything has a little bit of a subdued feeling, and there are some beautiful blues, but there's about 3 or 4, 5 of the lighter colors that are gorgeous. So one was, let's see, dewberry, aquamarine, columbine. So anyway, I'm sure Woolly Thistle, I know they had an episode where they were showing these, but this one is much more vibrant in real life. Not vibrant, but a little more color than it looks like here, I think. Anyway, so those are 2 that I'm really excited about. I want to cast that on. Oh, you know, for me to mix this with mohair, it would have to be a very light and complementary color. It's possible Le Biche Bouche mohair, petite mohair they might have something, but it just, otherwise, because this isn't where I really don't want anything to brighten it. And you can see with hers here, it really does blend pretty nicely. It's not a high contrast or anything. So, oh yeah, and there's the lace of that. So it doesn't look too hard, but really beautiful. And I think what's getting me, see the light shining through here? That's just sort of where I am right today anyway. So the book also has quite a few pairs of socks. It has another sweater, the Lighthouse Keeper pullover. And that is a worsted weight. And here's the kid size. And as you know, those colors that I've really been crazy about lately. Most of I think the patterns in the book work for kids, not babies, I don't think. But they definitely work for kids. So, and in fact, I think Lindsey has twin boys. And they are in here. So let's see what else is there in here there's a very nice hat and cowl set. There's that, and the cowl also comes in a mix of colors, but here she just used the single skein, and that's a real nice hat also. But the reason I bought the book is I'm thinking this is either the south coast or the way north coast. I'm not sure. Maybe near Cannon Beach or something. The reason I bought the book is I wanted to make this sweater. Okay. So it's a worsted weight sweater. And I thought, wouldn't that be great? It would use up, you can see, and you see the texture in there. And so I thought, wow, that could use up a few remnants, because I think for my size, well, it looks like it would take yeah, I don't know. It's a big sweater, so it still might take quite a bit. You might need to buy new yarn, but if you have a good collection of worsted weight, which I don't, then you might be able to do it. But here's the thing for me. Oh, and it's bottom up. So I much prefer top down. I almost always do top down. Everything I've done it almost is top down, except for that one baby sweater I told you about. And I just love being able, I love it when I try it on, I put it on waste yarn or the barber cord or something, and I try it on, and I just, I can tell if it's going to work or not, and then I keep trying it on all the way through, and it's just very hard to do that with a bottom-up sweater. But the piece but I'm willing to brave that, as I am with my Strom cardigan. But the thing I'm wondering about is, how do I adjust and make it bigger for the hips? So, I mean, it's possible that this little textured pattern could be forgiving of some, I mean, there must be decreases and increases in the sweater at some point. So, maybe I could do the same thing I'm doing with the other sweater and start with a bigger size for the bottom, and then, I think one thing that I wish was in the book that isn't is there's no graphics. There's very, very detailed measurements for you here. But anyway, I'm assuming that the bust size is intended to be the same size as the hips. And of course, I'm not, and many, many other people aren't either. So the question is there a way to do it? And she might have a way to do it. And I'm hoping as people make this sweater, we might hear some discussion of that. What was the other thing? There was another thing about that. Oh yeah. So this isn't the only sweater I've ever wondered about this issue with. I also have always wanted to make one of these sweaters. This is designed by Mary Jane Mucklestone from her Fair Isle Weekend book, and it's called Veesik. And I would just love to make it. I just think the color work would be so fun. So, but the same issue, how do I, is it possible? So I sent her a message. I mean, once when she had this on Instagram, I sent a message and said, could I make it larger at the bottom by increasing the needle size, which I think Caitlin Hunter used in the Birkin sweater, which has been on my list to make forever. And she said something encouraging, but I have wondered about that. So if anybody has any helpful tips, let me know, but I will keep checking it out, because I hate to not do these wonderful designs just because I can't figure out this sizing issue. So that's something I'm thinking about. Okay, I think, where am I? I'm zooming along here because I think I was afraid of the more sounds coming up from the neighbors. Okay, what was the other thing? And where is it? I have another, well, I don't seem to have it here. I'm making another baby sweater. Nope, I don't have it. Okay, I'll just tell you about it. I'm making another baby sweater called Ellen's Coming Home set, and it's by Petite Knit, who needs no introduction, I'm sure. She just has so many wonderful, very classic sweaters. So I don't know why I haven't made one of hers yet. But anyway, I've looked at them, and I picked the Ellen's Coming Home set. Have that. I wanted to show you the picture. Well, anyway, you will see it soon. I'm using a nice warm brown for an October baby, and it has a sweater. I'll put the link below. It has a sweater that buttons on the side. It has a pair of pants and a hat. And I know I at least want to make the sweater. I've never made pants. That would be really fun to do. So I'm going to start that, and I'm using the Sandness Garn Smart. And Smart is a superwash 100% wool Norwegian yarn, and it's really, I did some work on the sweater, and I really like how it feels. I ripped it out though because the fabric, it just felt too tight. Even though I had gauge, the fabric felt too dense to me, so I might have to do some fiddling around. But one thing about a baby, if they don't fit into something right now, they will eventually, as long as you make it bigger, not smaller. So usually I go for a little bit bigger, but this newborn I do feel needs a coming home set, so I definitely want to try making a smaller, one of the smallest. So we'll see what happens. I might make newborn and just use bigger needles, and that might give me a little bit more volume for this little unborn child. So, okay, I have a few little things here. I really don't like to do too much with acquisitions because I don't like the word, I guess. I like the idea that we're not acquiring too much and we're working on our stash, not to mention there's stuff under my day bed here and under my bed at home. And then there's a box in my closet with a whole bunch of Let Lopey. So trying not to acquire too much new, but some things have come my way. This one, I can't believe it. Somebody just sent me a gift out of the blue, a friend of mine, and I know you hear that on podcasts, but those are often people that people know from podcasting and knitting and so forth. This is just a dear friend of mine who's not a knitter, and she sent this. It was before my birthday, and I don't think she was sending it for my birthday, but she just saw these and bought it for me, and I thought I should do that for people more often and not get so tied to the holidays or the birthdays or whatever. But if you see something, give something to someone out of the blue and they'll never forget it, really. But she sent me these earrings. Now, can you see those? Yeah. So they look like a little ball of yarn with the needles coming out. And it is called Sienna Sky is the brand, and I'm not sure where she got them, of course, because I wasn't with her, but they're adorable, and the color, honestly, so cute. So that is a great thing to do for someone. Just find a box in the mail that you didn't order from Woolly Thistle, huh? The other thing is I was in this little town called Silverton where there's a yarn store called Apples to Oranges, and They also have quite a lot of puzzles and toys and cards, and I think she serves tea, some other thing, candy maybe. So she's really, for a tiny little town, I think there's like 9,000 people in Silverton. She's branched out a little bit, but she also does have quite a bit of yarn, which I've only begun to explore. But she had some crafting kits, and this isn't usually my thing, but I've been thinking of doing a little bit of embroidery, maybe on a sweater. And I haven't done embroidery in about, I'd say since 1975 or 6. Oh boy. Yeah. And so what I did then was I had 2 projects for 2 different boyfriends over a period of maybe 3 years. And we used to get these work shirts. They were like men's work shirts, and they were like a chambray, and when you wash them they got really soft. And so on these work shirts for these 2 different young men, I embroidered the placket of the work shirt. Now this was probably not the best idea, because actually these were 100% cotton, and they got wrinkled when you wash them, and I'm sure nobody ever ironed those plackets, so I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, I did quite a bit of embroidery, and I got a little book with different embroidery, different things you could do. But anyway, I saw this kit at the Apples to Oranges store. And so what it is it's a needle case, and I happen to need a needle case. And so what you get is you get the felt. See, it has the felt in here. You get a whole lot of instructions and guidance here. And then if I open this, it'll crinkle like crazy, but sorry. But there's the embroidery thread, and it comes with a needle. Okay, I'll just set this very delicately over here so you don't have to listen to it. But anyway, it just seems like a fun little thing to try, and it would be, by the time I finished it, I might be feeling either back into needle embroidery or not, and so I'll know. But I do need a needle case, and that would be great to try it on. So the other thing they have is most of those little kits were for Christmas ornaments, and you can buy some individual ones. There's birds, and I know a llama and a few other things, and there's even one with, I think, the days of Christmas, the 12 days of Christmas, but that costs like $100 or something. But it would be very fun to do. And again, that's a thing that it's decorative, but it's a thing you might use if you celebrate Christmas, or if you don't, they'd be very cute hanging from a window or something. So anyway, those were really fun, and I enjoyed going into that store, and I think I'll be back. I have a loved one who's moved there, so that's why I feel optimistic about that. Okay, and then I was going to tell you, I think I have one, I'm going to put a link below for the story of the Oregon beach bill, just in case anybody's interested in that. And then the other thing that I recently read a book called The Memoirs of Stockholm Sven. And it is a book by Nathaniel Miller. It's his first book, and it's about a young man who is from Stockholm who went to Svalbard, which is an Arctic archipelago. I think it's north of Norway. And he went there. It was a time where he was somebody looking for something to do. And I think if you're a certain social class, your options were not huge. So he ends up signing a contract with a coal mining company, and he goes up there to work in the mines, which sounds not enjoyable to me. I'm a little claustrophobic. When I was in high school, I wrote a letter. I think I read a story in Time magazine about men in the mines developing black lung disease. And I wrote a letter to my congressman asking for consideration that something be done about that. And that was the first time I ever wrote a letter to anybody. But that gives you some idea of how my brain works. But so reading this story won't make you feel more wanting to go down in a mine, that's for sure. But anyway, most of the story takes place up on this when he's out on his own in this archipelago. But he's not alone for long, and if he were, I would probably not be saying that I really love the book. It's not the kind of book I'd normally pick up, but a friend of mine recommended it, and I wish she were here, because if she were describing it, everybody'd go out and buy it. She's just has such a way with words. But basically there's a fur trapper who comes into play and a Scottish geologist, and really when the story's over, you realize it's really about all the connections with these people actually, and not just this man against the elements, which I think I probably wouldn't have reached out for that. But anyway, I really did like the book. I also finished The Last Days of Café Lila by Donya Bijan, which was the story I mentioned last time about a woman returning to Iran after many, many years. And she's somebody who, the character, and I think the author as well, had left Iran after the Islamic Revolution. And this is a story of coming home. And what I liked about it is how much it's just, there are some things about what's happening there, and in terms of how women are limited in particular, but there's also really a lot of warm and wonderful things about the culture, and I'm really glad that I learned that piece about Iran. I had a friend when I was in college in the early 70s, I had a friend from Iran, and even though it was called Iran by then, we were still calling it Persia. And he was a wonderful person, and I'm sorry I lost touch with him, but he always said to me, if you travel, don't go to Europe, that's so much like here, go to someplace like the Middle East or Iran. And I still haven't gotten there. Okay, let me see. Is there anything else I can tell you? I think I'm blazing along, but that's a good thing. Not too much dragging around and listening to you mourn about knitting problems that have gotten me down. I'm feeling very optimistic today, and there's so much to knit. There's so many fun projects with this new book, and I just know that people have been saving things that they've been saving for the fall to bring out new designs. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention is I just look on the Salt and Timber book. I've been noticing that the test knits have been coming on. and coming out, and I've really particularly been enjoying on Instagram looking at what Stephanie has done on she calls herself Edible Thoughts Makes, and I think she tested 5 or 6 of the pieces in salt and timber, and the one she did for the lighthouse pullover is just great. So you really might want to check that out. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. I could talk all day, but I'm gonna wrap it up now. I really appreciate you watching, and I hope you're doing well and staying healthy, and I look forward to seeing you soon. I'm hoping to do it a little sooner this time, because I have a lot of plans for knitting, and I want to talk to you about them. So take care. Happy knitting.